Hello and welcome back to the Double Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan, and I'm joined today by my lovely duo of co-hosts, Brett
Hello.
and Wyatt.
Hi.
What did you do, Wyatt? Why are you laughing out of frame?
I don't know. I was doing
doing the waves.
I was doing some awesome dance moves, and then Brett just starts laughing at me.
Strange wiggling motion.
For no good reason. I was just jamming out. So I see one
Nice.
person laughing, then I start laughing.
Good
That's
jams. Good
just
jams.
how it goes. Oh yeah.
All right. So, it's episode 76. We're going to talk about the Sony showcase that just happened, as well as solve some issues between our lovely two co-hosts here. They've had some long-standing problems with each other that must be resolved somehow.
What are you talking
Some
about? Out of
feuds.
everyone in the entire cast, we're the two that get along the most.
I'm sure.
I could barely
100%
finish
sure.
that sentence. I could barely finish it.
I don't have strong enough opinions to disagree with you, so... All right.
Centrist.
Now, as
Moderate.
always, on this show, we like to do a couple of things. One of them is cover major news.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Now, we don't have a lot of major news this time, but we do have some news that I specifically want to bring up because I think it's really funny and might have a good conversation. Jake from State Farm is a character in NBA 2K22 City Mode.
Yes, I heard about this.
I think this is
I heard about
incredibly
this.
funny and a little bit sad, but incredibly funny at the same time.
That's great.
Well, because he's in like a built-in ad in the game, right? That's why
Yeah.
he's there.
He is a built-in ad to the game.
So it's really funny, but it's also wildly dystopian.
I mean, so I have a
Built-in
controversial take
game.
on this, I think. I'm actually more okay with this kind of ad than I am with ads that normally happen in NBA games where they'll be on like a loading screen or something, or the horrible microtransactions. I'd be okay with more of this kind of thing, because I do think it has some comedy value as well, if it is in replacement of some microtransactions or something. The problem is, it's not in replacement of those things, it's in addition to those things.
Yeah.
On a
Kinda
base
reminds
level, though, I
me-
think it can be fun. It's the stuff like the Monster Energy in Death Stranding is the kind of
Yeah,
thing where like
yeah.
that existing doesn't really bother me because I know it probably paid to not have the microtransactions in the game.
Mhm.
But with NBA, you know they're just squeezing out every bit of revenue they can possibly squeeze out.
Yeah,
It just-
of course.
It reminds me of I forget which Call of Duty it is. I think it's Ghost, but they had Snoop Dogg as like the multiplayer game announcer, which is
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's great.
Absolutely, that was very funny. I don't know. I think this is the kind of thing where I would be okay with it if it was replacement of something, but it's not. It's just there as in addition to a State Farm clothing store, which is maybe
Oh.
even better.
What?
It, you know how in NBA games you run around this little city block type thing, and you can buy clothes for your character and whatnot to make them
I've
look.
never played an NBA game, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, that's why I'm telling you why. That's why I'm outlining what you can do in the city mode.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
okay.
the point of doing that.
Oh.
So
Well, you know how in an NBA, I'm like, no, I don't. What you
I'm-
talking about?
fine, Wyatt. But yeah, you can change your character, go to clothing stores and whatnot, as you do in many RPGs. You can change your drip, as it were. And there's some
Many
State Farm
RPGs like 2K.
many RPGs like, hey, I would count it. You know, it sounds weird, but I would count 2K
Game
as an
Awards.
RPG.
Game Awards, best RPG.
The Game
of the
Awards
year.
would count it, yeah.
Best RPG of the year, NBA 2K.
NBA 2K is 100%.
Madden
RPG of the
Madden
year.
22, best RPG of the year.
Yeah, weird dystopian future that we're in. You know, I cannot wait to see some very strange Space Jam character crossovers in the AEW wrestling game now.
Oh god.
Can't wait for that.
It has to happen now.
Yep. All right. Moving on for our weekly news. There are heavy rumors that a new Twisted Metal game is in development. Are you two familiar with the Twisted Metal?
I'm familiar. I've never played.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
that's unfortunate. Twisted Metal is truly a glory franchise. It's also a very Wyatt franchise. I think you would like it.
The closest I came to playing a Twisted Metal game is I remember playing, what's the clown guy's name? Was it like Smiley
Mr.
or
Twisted
something?
Metal.
You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're
like-
talking
like-
about.
like
I've only
Mr.
ever referred to him as
Twisted
Mr.
Metal.
Twisted Metal.
Twisted Metal Man.
Twisted Metal the
The,
clown.
the closest I came was to playing a Twisted Metal game was I remember playing that character specifically in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
Oh,
Oh
boy.
yeah.
So that's the closest I've come to playing Twisted Metal.
I forgot he was in that game. All right.
Mhm.
How could you?
Along with such PlayStation classic mascots like Dante from Devil May Cry and the Big Daddy from BioShock. Classic, PlayStation exclusive.
And don't forget Raiden from Metal Gear Rising. That's the one that makes the most. It's the funniest to me.
Yeah.
Or Fat Princess and Parappa the Rappa. All these people. All these.
I mean,
characters
Parappa the Rappa
everyone
is
remembers.
definitely
No,
a
and so
PlayStation
is Fat
mascot,
Princess, but also like who? I mean,
but a lot
No
of people
Crash.
love them.
no Crash.
Hey, Crash was dead. They decided they wanted Crash to be in a coffin until like
And Fat Princess wasn't?
Someone brought it back. I mean, Fat Princess is an indie game. They're always
Or
dead.
how about Spyro? For God's sake. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
All right. So last week we talked about how Apple was deciding to allow alternative payment methods in their stuff. We've now learned that is the result of the court ruling. The court ruled in favor of, not necessarily in favor of Epic, but ruled that Apple must allow devs to redirect users to other payment systems.
In general, in that lawsuit, it's kind of complicated, but to put it simply, everyone lost, essentially.
Everyone, Epic and Apple both just lost a lot of money to do this, although
Right.
it is
Yeah,
probably, I
yeah.
think this is definitely the most desirable ruling at the end of people need to be able to include their own payment systems, which is nice.
Well,
for,
that depends on whether you're a Fortnite fan or not, because Fortnite is still not coming back to iOS because Epic doesn't want to.
I mean, but that would have happened
abide
either
by
way, right? Like, the only solution to
Well,
that
if
would have
well,
been
if
Apple
Epic had gotten
allowing
their
this in
way-
the first place.
Well, if Epic had gotten their way, then yeah, but
I mean, Epic did get their way. This is what Epic wanted.
not entirely though. From what I understand, on all of the accounts in this entire thing, the court mostly ruled with Apple except for like one or two accounts.
Yeah, but this is
What I
the big result of this is that Apple now must allow alternate payment methods, right? They cannot take down a game with that being the reason, which was the reason they gave for taking down Fortnite.
Well,
So-
right, but yeah, and I think that was more Epic's fault for like trying to add in the feature when it was specifically going against Apple's guidelines, and so the court rule was like, well, you still can't do that. That's not okay. So
Well, the court has ruled that's okay. That's what
no,
happened.
but it wasn't. They said in that instance it wasn't because they were still going against Apple's terms of service.
Yeah, but this is the new ruling is that those terms of service are
Yes.
unlawful. So
Yes, it is now. But what they're saying is before that was a ruling, they still shouldn't have done that because that wasn't part of their like guidelines.
I mean, well, that's why they had the court case. So I
know.
don't think this is an argument. It's just going in a circle. The gist is Epic got maybe not necessarily. Well, yeah, it is what they wanted for all developers, quote unquote. I don't know if we know anything about the Fortnite status on Apple devices. I think it's still downloadable through other means, but
It's not coming back to iOS.
yeah, I think that I feel like that's going to hurt Epic more than it is, or Apple more than it is Epic, to be honest. Because Epic has already said that their main revenue stream is PS4, so I feel like
makes
that's not a
sense.
huge cut to them, and this is definitely setting a bad look for Apple, considering they've quote unquote lost the court case, which is allowing people to have other payment methods, so Apple doesn't get their massive cut on every sale. All right. We're done with it. We did it. We got through the major
We won.
news.
Time for
Are
other
you guys
major
ready
news.
to start with the biggest news? The Sony showcase, the PlayStation
Wow.
showcase that
Wow.
just happened.
Are we going to
Wow.
consider this like Sony's E3 conference that's just really late? Because I kind of feel like it is, to be
I mean,
honest.
I think that's what they want us to consider it. To be honest, it's over.
Yeah.
It's too late. They
Yeah.
they missed out. they're like over a month past everyone else. It doesn't matter anymore.
But if they attended E3, this is what they would have shown. So
yeah,
it's
theoretically, I guess, yeah.
I probably, but
I'm actually kind of surprised that Horizon got its own separate thing. Like, I feel like they could have added the whole Horizon stream in with this.
I mean, I think Horizon was ready to show a lot earlier than most of this stuff, and that's why they showed it.
Oh, I'm sure, but it wasn't like too much. This wasn't like too much after that, so they could have roped this in with it.
I mean, this was like it's been more than 2 months at this point.
Oh, sure. But
So that's a while.
I'm not saying they had to. I'm just saying, they could have, and I don't think anyone would have complained.
I think, well, people were complaining anyway because they weren't at E3, so I just don't think it would have changed the amount of complaints.
But at E3 for a long time, it is what it is.
Yeah, but people complain every year, right? Like, it's always a thing to complain about. So now that our complaint session about Sony not being at E3 and that being disappointing can move on. We got the first thing happening, and they kicked it off with a bang. The Knights of the Old Republic remaster by Aspyr is officially announced.
Is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Aspyr, yeah.
I always just said Aspire, but they spelled it weird, but I don't know.
I think it's a European company, if I'm not wrong. So actually, no, I think they're Austin-based. Never mind. let me check Aspyr Media. I've always heard it pronounced Aspyr, not Aspire. But yeah, either way, it doesn't matter. Their Aspyr has announced their Knights of the Old Republic remake thing coming to PC and PS5 as a console exclusive, timed console exclusive, so we might get it on other platforms in the future.
Oh, did they say it was timed? I don't remember that.
That is in the press release. It wasn't in the showcase.
They wanted to keep it out.
They're not going to say in the showcase that it's a timed exclusive.
All right.
It was weird though, because in past Sony showcases, there's been that weird discrepancy between like some games having like the timed console exclusive thing, and then like some games like Final Fantasy 16, I think it was, had the trailer taken down and then re-uploaded without that at the bottom or something like that. So it was really weird. There were like a bunch of people in the chat that are like, this is PlayStation exclusive. People are gonna be rioting in the streets that KOTOR isn't gonna be on PC. And the new one is like, no guys, just look at the Star Wars Instagram page. They just made a post.
Yeah, it's like, don't go to the PlayStation 5 showcase expecting to see PC things. Though we did get a few PC things here. It's not the kind of thing you expect to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We did talk about this remake existing, the rumors of it, I think about 5 months ago now. It was in our way before the E3 stuff where there were some leaks that came out mentioning that there was hiring that looked like it was building up to this. And surprise, surprise, it was correct. We're getting an Aspyr Knights of the Old Republic remake. What I'm really curious to see is how faithful this is. Because for console, I feel like they need to change the combat system. Not that KOTOR is particularly bad, but it could definitely do with some modernizing. Yeah, I'm just excited to see how this shapes up.
Well, my biggest question was like, are they going to stick to the kind of like, almost like CRPG combat of the original, or are they going to do something more contemporary and like moment to moment, which would be pretty sweet, to be honest. I
almost feel like they need to stick with the CRPG, because I think if they switch to not being, and not like direct CRPG, but maybe more of that turn-based kind of angle or something a little bit less intensive than a CRPG for new players.
Almost like I'm imagining something like Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah,
where they kind of had this mix of like moment to moment and
something with like CRPG. More built-in, maybe basic attacks on buttons and whatnot, instead of
focuses more on strategy than like which
strategy and having a few more action elements.
Which I'd be fine with. Like the system they had in Inquisition, I thought was actually pretty sweet in terms of like combining real-time combat and like CRPG.
Yeah,
combat.
I just hope they keep the progression from KOTOR, because that was my biggest disappointment with Inquisition. And then obviously different developers, so it's not going to be the same thing, but I would love to see it more along those lines. And they have done a lot of remakes. Aspyr has done the not remakes, but remixes of Star Wars Academy and the racing game with Pod Racer. So they've done some Star Wars stuff before, and they've done a lot of strategy games before. They've done Civ ports and whatnot. So I think my gut says they're gonna stick somewhat close, but probably modernize it. And I think it's a good idea because one of the most important parts of the KOTOR is that party dynamic system and whatnot, and being able to change who you're playing as and all that. And I don't think you get that if you change the combat to be too modern.
Which again is why
like a much larger budget.
Which is why again an Inquisition style combat system I think would work really, really well here.
But I don't think we're gonna see like a fully action based system.
My biggest concern is that because it's an older Bethesda game, or not Bethesda, oh my god, BioWare game, what's the writing gonna be like? Because I mean, KOTOR,
dude, I went back and played KOTOR. KOTOR is still excellent. If they keep the writing mostly the same,
yeah, but it's a remake, so we don't know how much of the script they're gonna mess with. I hope, if they do, they better have some of the best writers, because KOTOR is
hard to mess with. Like it's hard to find faults with the writing in that game because you can still go back and play it, and it's great.
Yeah, it's just not the kind of RPG that I normally play. So from a gameplay perspective, I usually have a hard time like really getting into it. But I mean, the writing and the characters just
because KOTOR is from that era of like weird experimental CRPG systems where they were trying to modernize CRPGs and maybe didn't always succeed. And KOTOR kind of landed in this spot of being simultaneously too complicated and not complicated enough in combat. To where like if you didn't use force powers, you basically had like 3 buttons that you ever pressed. But if you did use force powers and like tried to do different things, you would get some wild varying things. So yeah. I'm excited to see where this goes, and I think Aspyr's got a decent track record, so it'd be fun to see their take on it. You know what? I think another viable option would be taking riffing off of Final Fantasy VII Remake's combat system. I don't know that they would be that close to it because Remake has different combat styles for like the different playable characters, and KOTOR Remake has a lot more playable characters than 7 Remake does.
I just want more games with that kind of like combat system, to be honest.
Yeah,
like
it's great.
If that becomes like how JRPGs work in the future, that kind of combat system, I'm way more.
Well, I mean, like
JRPGs.
What I think Brett and I have been saying a lot about JRPGs is they need to work differently, right? You don't want to see a homogenized genre because that's when things feel the best. Is when
but like if they take that as their, because like most turn-based RPGs have like a very similar base, and then they can kind of work off of it and do their own thing with it.
Do I go play some PS2 JRPGs? They were so much more creative than what we get nowadays.
but you know what? But you know what I'm saying? It's like most turn-based RPGs, they have like, you know, the foundation, and then they can mix and they can
for turn-based ones, but for JRPGs, that's too broad.
I would love to just like have that be like the base that you work off of, and then just kind of work off of that, because that's way more interesting to someone like me than a more traditional like
CRPG. I think that works well for some games. Like 7 Remake is a lot more action heavy, very cinematic. But for the slower paced games, I feel like that's
exactly why I like it. That's me. That's
it's
a nutshell.
I think you're advocating for JRPGs to be more like games that you enjoy. Whereas on my end, I'm like, I kind of want JRPGs to be like the games that I as a JRPG fan enjoy.
So let me rephrase. Maybe not the whole genre, but I want to see more games with that.
More games, some games taking that riff and like not avoiding it.
That's really what I mean. That's really what I mean.
Hey, it's always said good designers are designers who steal. So
that's true.
Let's hope that's what people start doing. All right. Any other KOTOR remake words? Nope. All right. Moving on to, this was such a weird thing to include in this showcase, but I loved that it was there. Project Eve.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
This was to me just such an odd trailer. But hey, I'm down. I'm always in for weird action games with mutated monsters. I just don't dig the main character. Not a huge fan of her look.
This may be a bit of a hot take, but a lot of the enemies in the game.
Look, that whole game was a hot take.
But it's got that kind of like, things feel almost like, I get this. I see this in a lot of like character designs for like Final Fantasy sometimes, where it's like things are like over designed, there's a lot of like visual noise going on, so it
Yeah.
can be kind of hard to tell what you're looking at, and a lot of the enemies felt like that.
This
to
feels
me.
like they looked at Scarlet Nexus and then went even further.
Yeah,
Or like we need more
yeah,
because they're trying to go for these like realistic monsters, and the main character doesn't look realistic at all. It has like mecha stuff going on and whatnot. And then you put her next to these like monsters that look straight out of Doom, and it looks a little bit weird.
I will say too, the camera work was a little bit too interested in her rear.
This
Which
felt
just-
like
it was super goofy.
an entire game of the original Mass Effect trilogy's Miranda cutscenes. That's what this felt like. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
it looks fun.
Looks interesting.
I'm always down for more action games and more weird things. There was a lot of people that I saw during this trailer were almost thinking it might be a Parasite Eve thing, because they kept saying Eve,
just
and
because
then
it said Eve.
it said Eve, and then someone was talking about a Parasite midway through.
Yeah,
It was like, oh,
But- no dice. Not
hey,
that
we
cool.
we still don't know. Maybe this is a Metal Gear Solid 5 third act thing. Maybe it's hiding somewhere, Brett.
Oh God.
Never be game over.
Carrying on the tradition of telling female characters apart from their butts alone. What you can't look at me like a crazy person. That's a Metal Gear thing. That's how Snake recognizes Meryl in Metal Gear Solid, Ryan.
I forgot about that. All right.
I made the butt joke, okay?
All right.
At the expense of only myself.
Any other
Go
words
over.
on Project Eve?
No.
All right.
No.
We'll see what this is like when it comes out.
It's been in development for a while, though. I've seen.
We've
trailers
seen
for
it
the past.
before. That's the thing that surprised me. I saw this
Yeah.
and did not remember at all that we had seen this before.
I did.
At Sony shows. Because I think we'd just seen the main character before. I don't think we'd seen like the monsters and everything.
There was a boss fight that they showed off at some point. I don't know if it was at a Sony show.
That might not
but
have
I
been
know
the
a
same
couple.
show.
It was probably some like indie guy on YouTube that just compiles a bunch of indie stuff was showing it off.
All right. After that, we saw Tiny Tina Wonderlands. Woo.
This looks cool. I don't know. I thought it looked kind of cool. Like a like D&D themed, like sort of Borderlands like expand alone sort of thing.
I just want to
thought it
know
looked-
how they're gonna make it stand out from Borderlands 3 is the big thing. I hope how they do it is they give characters more abilities and like more
more
things to mess
defined
with.
class abilities and stuff like
Because
that.
I went back and played Borderlands 3 after this, and really the thing that kind of got hammered home on me is it just feels slow. Even though that game is relatively fast, like because you only have one ability to use and you're constantly waiting for it to recharge, it just doesn't feel very fluid when you have other shooters like Destiny that give you like 3 or 4 different buttons to press. So I would love to see this give like every class 2 active abilities at once or something.
Who
or-
are you playing on your second playthrough?
Moe's. I'm too much
Oh,
of a fan
same.
of Gundams, so
Same.
I did play Amara for a while, but I went back and realized the new mech tree has heat-seeking missiles, and heat-seeking missiles are my favorite thing in any game. So
Yes.
I'm not joking. If there is a game with
Hey.
swarm missiles in them, I will play that game, even if it's
Of course.
really
For
bad.
some there are moments where you're playing as Moe's where it feels like you're playing Titanfall, and that's enough for me. Because
Dude, for me, it's the moments where I'm playing as Moe's and I feel like I just summoned a Gundam and shoot 30 missiles across the screen at once. That's what I want. It's the best part of the game.
no, I don't know. This looks interesting. A lot of the weapons I saw kind of had like cool like medieval
Yeah, the
fantasy
designs
themes to
looked
them.
good.
I
I
don't
liked
know.
how the characters that you could play as had these like very militarized medieval outfits, which is fun. With,
Yeah,
like, the
it's a-
bullet
it's a
casings and
cool-
whatnot.
cool like combination of like art styles, and I also just like Tiny Tina as a character. I think she's funny. So
I do wonder how well her humor is going to carry the whole game, though, because I feel like this is going to be a whole game of Tina humor, and I think Tina humor stands out so well because it's in a game that doesn't have a lot of it.
It didn't carry me through the trailer. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest
that's
with
why
you.
I'm saying that the trailer to me, like, it completely lost me when she at the end was like, "Are you waiting for an after credits scene?" What? It was a little too much.
I thought it was kind of cute.
I felt most of the trailer was fine, but when she said the after credits thing, I was like, well, all right. I guess we're gonna go into the whole Marvel riffing again.
Well, I mean, if she's written like, Borderlands 3, then I'm not gonna like any of it. But if it's more in the
that's my
vein
concern, Wyatt, because that's
you
the
want to
most
say,
recent
Brett,
thing
just
they
don't-
put out.
I didn't want to say anything.
I just don't look. No, I'm just kidding.
I smiled and laughed because I haven't heard a single good thing about that game. All my friends had a horrible time playing it.
No, I'm just.
I think it's really fun to
I
play.
do.
The story and the writing is just so much worse than 2.
What I heard was that some of the expansions, actually, the writing was pretty good. Like
Yeah.
I'm playing with Moe's right now. I have the the Western themed one, which I heard was actually written pretty well. It was pretty funny.
And funnily enough, I think Arms Race is a good example of the writing getting better, where you have the commentary running of Axton, and I think it's Salvador.
So then something must have. I mean,
at that
changed.
point, they probably knew people didn't like the writing style for the main game and swapped either the writers around or directed them differently. So
then who knows? It might be better.
But also Randy Pitchford is involved, and that gives me negative confidence by a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Borderlands 3 is a fun game in spite of Randy being part of the team.
yeah, in spite of him just appearing. Hey, we also we didn't talk about this last time, but Xbox got a Sea of Thieves ship designed after Borderlands. So
oh yeah,
that happened.
That was cool looking. Thought it was kind of cool looking.
Yeah, and Sea of Thieves it's just a ship. Okay, moving on from Tiny Tina, we saw Forspoken. This is the first major gameplay look I think we've gotten. We saw a lot of gameplay.
That name. I still hate that title so much.
I just don't get it.
I don't like it. No.
It doesn't roll off the tongue at all. It doesn't
it feels like Returnal to me, where I just don't get it right now, and maybe I'll get it. Well, because now I get Returnal, right? I understand Returnal, having played the game. Okay, it's not a bad title, but having not played Forspoken, I just don't get it, right?
Is that even an actual word? Hold on.
Is that I think it might be a real word.
I think Forspoken's a real word, right?
I hate it. I hate the word.
It's a very high fantasy. You need to have the correct accent and cadence to say it without pissing me off.
Okay, Forspoken literally just means to bewitch
or foresee. Oh,
to bewitch. Okay.
Wait a minute. What was yours? Say it again.
Mine or Brett's?
To bewitch, he said.
Yeah.
Oh, because I'm looking at it on a dictionary.
So did I. I just looked at
it's completely different. It's to arrange or speak in advance, or to predict or foresee.
Maybe it's just some weird word they picked out of a dictionary, a thesaurus or somewhere.
Maybe it isn't a real word after all.
It's in a dictionary, so it's real, but we don't really know the meaning anyway after looking at the dictionary. So, yeah. Interesting title. We learned it's an isekai. Did we know this before?
It's a what?
I don't think so.
It's an isekai.
Oh, little baby Wyatt. When you're in the real world and you get transported to a magical world and people in Japan are making it, it's called an isekai.
I did not know that.
It's Sword Art Online.
There you go. It's
we get a little now you know star just
yeah.
Here, I'll just draw a big star for you on the board.
Yeah, there we go.
Among all the other stuff that's still on it, you can't even see it.
That board
it's
is
also in a color that doesn't show up there because I drew it in green.
So I can't see it. I can't see it.
It's completely invisible.
That board is just gonna be overlapped with it's gonna look like an insane asylum little cell, and it's just got
gonna be runes on it.
It's great.
It looked fun though.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of magic in games, and I love the idea of a game that finally is okay, you're the magician, you only have magic, do whatever you want with the magic. Yeah. That very much appeals to me, of not having the melee option, and I can just do the crazy magic.
And I like action games that have a focus on mobility and movement and
oh yeah, this certainly looks like that.
Yeah, and utilizing the environment, and it's with these big arenas and stuff. It looks pretty sweet.
I don't know if you agree with me, but the biggest feeling of a similar game I was getting out of this was actually Dragon's Dogma. And that's what excites me, is seeing the magic that looks like Dragon's Dogma magic, where it's just insane.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's what really made that game fun for me.
I didn't make that comparison, but that's
it looks that's that kind of magic that you just don't see very often. I think it and like Final Fantasy 14 are the only games I've played that have magic that looks like that crazy when you do it, but also still clearly looks like magic. So I'm digging the look of most of this game. I'm curious on your guys' takes on the protagonist, because I think the jokes started to run thin on me very quickly with this.
Do I have takes? Oh boy.
All right, Brett.
This is like my least favorite kind of dialogue everywhere. Like it's just I don't even know how to express it or explain it, but it's just, oh my god, what are you freaking talking about? This is so freaking crazy. What, I'm not gonna go through the portal. What? No.
Oh my
Like,
god,
all, like,
I can
stuff
do
like
magic
that. It's just
now.
like it's just like, whoa, wacky, crazy character learning to do things. Like what? And it's just, no, please no.
It feels like they're writing
even
millennial
more,
hipster superhero.
it's
Again.
It feels like a poorly. It feels like a Marvel character, but bad. It just does not feel.
You know what the
like
writing
a
almost
person.
most seems similar to me is the villains from Borderlands 3. She talks like
Yes.
they do, and that really bothers me. Because man,
And
Go ahead,
on
Brett.
top of this is Luminous, right? That's making this.
Yeah, Luminous Productions.
This is Final Fantasy 15 people that are working on this game. That's what Luminous is made of.
I mean, the thing with 15 had
Fantasy
so many
15.
issues because of
It
external
did.
factors too, of like them having to not use the same engine, the game losing funding like 3 times and getting redone
Well,
to a
they
different thing.
switched directors like 3 or 4
Yeah,
times.
like I think
which is
this game
never-
hasn't had those issues, so I'm a little bit more confident the
that's
game
still-
itself will be good.
For me, it's just another, like, I mean, I can't say like knock against it because it's not out yet, but like another reason to be
Cautious.
less interested, cautious,
Sure.
yeah, because it's just like I already like, I mean, like the gameplay looks, action packed and like fun with the magic and stuff,
Very
but like
smooth.
the writing
It
and
didn't-
that fact alone are like
It had Grimoire
really
Weiss
big
in
red
it
flags for
though,
me.
so the bracelet's
He's in a
basically
lot of
just
things.
Grimoire Weiss.
I totally get where you guys are coming from, like in terms of the writing, because like a lot of the times it's very annoying and like
Yeah.
cringeworthy. I will say it didn't bother me so much here, and that's partially because I don't like taking lines out of context from the rest of.
I mean,
the game.
the one line here that really bothered me was, "That's a freaking dragon." That line got me. 'Cause I was just like, I can't. This is too much, right? This is not. I cannot imagine there being a context where that line, instead of like abject terror, is the
that's
right
fair.
case. Because it
No, and
seems like
that's
they
fair.
want to do this emotional story about this woman being transported to this weird world, and they're probably going to have some weird stuff with her, like in these different places. And I think they could do a lot with that if they played more on the reaction of, oh no, I've just been transported to a crazy fantasy world and can like summon magic trees of ice or whatever, except this dragon's trying to kill me, and that's really weird.
Yeah.
Feels like there's some potential there that they're not going to capitalize on.
I don't know.
Which is weird because, and like we're in the weird era now where isekai shows have just become making fun of isekai shows, because there was just that like stretch of like 5 or 10 years where every single one was absolutely terrible and it was just like the same thing.
Yep.
And so like just from this, if they attempt to go like the weird, wacky, like almost
Konosuba-esque.
that Konosuba, that time I got reincarnated as a slime kind of thing, but it just falls flat, then it's just going to go
It's gonna
right
be
in the same
awful.
box as Sword Art Online.
Because if you're gonna
It's just
do
gonna
that,
be
you need to go
terrible.
for an art style that isn't realistic, right? You got to do something
Yeah,
humorous
yeah,
that can
that
be
too.
funny. This game looks really good, but it feels a lot more serious than what I think the writing is going to be.
It should be more
Which
serious.
is weird because like I've been playing a bit of Tales of Arise, and that game looks like what I imagine a game with that tone would look like, and not this. Which is great.
No,
Any other
I
forspoken
totally
thoughts?
no, I totally get it. I kind of want to wait to see what it's like in context, because maybe it's a little bit less like. I don't know.
I want to voice my concerns, but I'm voicing them with the knowledge that I'm probably going to get this game pretty close to it coming out because I love magic.
Yeah.
Like, the story in this game would have to be really bad for me to not play it because the magic looks really fun. My only other
And that's assuming it
concern-
has a good magic system to begin with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
the
only other
combat's gotta be
concern is the bit where she used the magic as just an SMG, where she like held her arm out and was just shooting an SMG, except it was magic.
The gun spell.
I really hope it's not that the entire time.
But what
like,
if?
I don't know. That feels like by far the least visually impressive thing that
It's
she
like
was
just
doing
make
the entire
it
time.
just make it a shooter at that point. If you're gonna have gun spells, it's like defeating the purpose of you using spells instead.
I don't want this to be Control again. That's the big thing. This Control was great as Control, but I think Forspoken needs to be a little bit different than that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next part of the show, we got Rainbow Six Extraction. I think we've said basically everything we can say about this game until it comes out at this point, I think, except for maybe Brett, because I don't think you were there when we did the initial reaction to it.
Which is funny because you're
mean-
the one that's played Siege the most out of all of us.
Yeah, I don't know how much it will be based off of it in when it actually comes out, but it started as something that was based off of like a short like zombie event that
Mhm.
Rainbow Six had
Yeah.
that was like weirdly from like February to March or something, and it was like Halloween, but not okay.
It's an interesting time to have a zombie mode.
It was really weird. And like in
Happy Valentine's
Rainbow
Day.
Six, there wasn't a lot of Happy Valentine's Day. There wasn't a lot of like mechanical depth, and there wasn't a lot of things that you could do beyond. I mean, it's just a zombies mode. It's just unfortunately running in Rainbow Six's engine, so it's a bad zombies mode. But it looked like they had more gadgets shown off in the trailer than they had.
And the gameplay had more
obviously,
structure that they showed. They showed
yeah.
a lot more progression type things that you could have.
My only thing is like, I don't know. I don't know how much interest there is there from like Rainbow Six people who want like a PvE mode. I don't know how it's going to attract new people, and I don't know how the support's going to go because support for Rainbow Six's like main game is kind of iffy. So I don't know if it's like one like big team that's like splitting into two or something to try to tackle both, but that would be. I mean, I'm not getting. There's no chance on planet Earth that I'm getting this game ever. But these are my concerns if I was going to ever play it.
And I think to sum up what Ryan and I think is that we haven't played a whole lot of Siege, if at all, but Siege's sandbox elements in a sort of co-op game like this could be really interesting.
Yeah.
As
If
long as they play
capitalize
into
on
it. Yeah. They got to really design around it. And from that first set of trailers we saw where they did the deep dive around Ubisoft stuff, it looked like they were going to try for that. The things that started to worry me were the bits about how your agents get captured and they can die and whatnot. And it looked like there might be some real money involved with that is kind of scaring me a little bit. It's like,
but this is
okay,
Ubisoft. They don't really
it.
do microtransactions all that much. You know, that's not really their thing.
Wyatt. Just I'm thinking about Rainbow Six Siege right now. I'm like, oh no. That's what concerns me is the monetization.
Their
I think
monetization methods are avant-garde. I'll put it that way.
That's a good way of putting it. Because a game like this, where you're doing the horde mode thing, I think you really have to have good cosmetic rewards and good like operator rewards for players to earn in game that aren't super grindy. Because I think you have so many people like me who are people that enjoy that game mode a little bit, but are going to lose interest if it takes us like 10 hours to get a new character or whatnot. I'm done, right? Like I'm not.
Well, also if you don't have a system like from Back 4 Blood or Left 4 Dead's like director, where you can play the same mission twice, but loot and enemies are randomized and kind of customized to how you and your team work. Like that kind of thing is so important these days, especially for a mode like this. And I don't know if they've really talked about how they're going to be handling that.
I'm a little concerned they might go too hardcore with this game, especially with them trying to go for that Siege audience and that Tarkov audience. This might end up being a game that's a little bit more niche than what we're wanting, which is fine if it's built for those people and it works well for those people. but at the same time, they might be limiting their audience a little bit. It might turn out to not be as well constructed for those types of players, because like people that love Tarkov because it's a really well put together thing that there isn't anything else like. Even though it has problems, it's the only thing that offers that, and they're gonna need to like.
They also play it because they
really
don't
play
actually
that up.
enjoy it.
That is the other
I mean,
aspect.
it's that
to a Tarkov
risk
player.
reward thing is a huge draw for these
They
games.
play it because it's their job, not because
like
they
I know
enjoy it.
Tarkov is PvP, this is PvE, and I think that it's still going for those same players, because like I know a lot of people that play Tarkov and don't really care about the PvP, but love the PvE kind of clearing of rooms and the tactical approach you have to take to that segment of the game. So yeah, I think it could appeal for those people, but we'll see. Then we saw Alan Wake Remaster.
Yes.
I'm excited. I never got to finish the first Alan Wake.
I never played it.
I couldn't finish it. There were just some like spots that were like that felt really unfair and kind of like frustrating. Like it definitely feels a little dated, like more so than I remembered when I played it a little while ago. Just with some of the way the enemies work, like there's moments where objects are just kind of thrown at you, but you have to go through these like really small like corridors, or like there's a section in particular where it was like under a bridge and he was just chucking stuff at you, and it was like really annoying and I didn't really know what to do, and that could have been my fault, but it got frustrating after a while, because I think it just feels a little bit more dated than I hoped it was. But
I do wonder how different the game's going to be, because it's a remaster, not a remake, but I feel like Remedy will probably do a few quality of life things.
I hope so.
Because I think that's what Alan Wake really needs, is just some updated. The control scheme can be a little bit wonky if you're not familiar with it. There's the checkpoints can be a little bit unforgiving at times, and stuff like that. I think
the physics can be a little wonky.
So I'm hoping it's a little bit more than just a visual remaster.
I hope that remasters and like remastered collections in the future take a lot of notes from like MCC and the Mass Effect trilogy, where it's like it's okay to have a remaster, but then also improve things at the same time.
Yeah, because like Mass Effect trilogy, I think is a really good take on it, because Mass Effect trilogy is mostly the same game with a lot of the same stuff that people loved intact, but there's a few like balance changes, a few things are just minorly tuned up a little bit, so they're more similar to the other games.
It feels like a more cohesive,
but every game still has its own identity. They all feel a little bit different, so I think it definitely makes those games fun to go back through.
I hope in the future that we don't have to have a remake for you to really go back and change something. Like I feel like you can go in and make some small important tweaks in a remaster, and I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys guess what we saw next?
Oh yeah, this was a total
Grand Theft Auto 5.
It was, I think the Grand Theft Auto community has been looking forward to this for a really, really long time. We've been stuck on 4 for such a long time, and it's really great to see, the series coming back in a big way.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of excitement for this specifically.
The great thing about this is it was also delayed. So this was meant to be out in November. It's not going to be out in 2022. Which, I mean, I hope Rockstar is doing some enhancements and actually making use of the Rumble, because I do think GTA 5 is a game that's going to always age really well, because it's a really well-made game. But if they can actually take use of things like the Rumble, that's much better, and adaptive triggers, there could be some fun stuff in that game. Also, Rockstar, I just want to see what you're coming out with next.
Please make another game someday.
I mean, Red Dead 2 wasn't too long ago, but
I like Rockstar games. I just want more of them.
No, they do, but I'm glad they take the time that they do, because they're always really polished. When
I do hope they tone back on you having to watch an animation to pick up every single item.
I think they're not. I think they're not going to be doing that with Grand Theft Auto. I think they're going to keep doing that with Red Dead, but not with Grand Theft Auto. I think with Grand Theft Auto, they're going to be a bit.
GTA is too casual aimed. Yeah. It's more casual core gamer audience.
And it's good to have like distinction between your two franchises as well. It's like if you have Red Dead be your like cowboy simulator sort of thing, but then you have your Grand Theft Auto be more like over the top. I think that kind of diversifies your franchises a little bit better.
All right, moving on from Grand Theft Auto PS5 edition getting delayed. This is definitely, I think, one of the more interesting games we saw was Ghostwire Tokyo. We get to see more of it.
Yes.
And I think this one, I was a little iffy the first time we saw the first-person combat. This made it look a lot better this time around. It looked a lot smoother. We saw more of the main character, and that it's actually very story-heavy. I think I'm pretty excited about this. There were some really cool enemy, creepy monster designs.
The
I
two
do
things,
love the straight up like Slendermen that were just hanging out. That was pretty good.
The two things that kind of come to mind for me is it feels like every trailer after that first reveal that we saw feels very different in tone. Like the first Ghostwire Tokyo thing that we saw was very like kind of like really creepy and slow pace, and everything here feels a bit more like standard action.
Well, because there have been team member changes on this game. Ikumi Nakamura was one of the first people that was on it and isn't anymore. It's a bunch of stuff like that, of like creative changes and whatnot seem to have happened.
But there's that, but also and they may have already talked about this. I haven't been super up to date on it, but I don't think they've covered it in any of the trailers. I don't know like structurally what this game is like. Is it open world? Is it like linear sort of narrative adventure? Is it like a...
I don't know if they've confirmed it. I think they've leaned towards it being sort of that semi-open world take, where it might be an open world that kind of expands the more you're playing. But we'll see. I think that's the one thing they haven't really talked a lot
we've seen
about.
Combat, and combat looks cool, but structurally I think they haven't really talked
This
about
feels
it.
like a kind of game that would be very good as an open world-ish thing.
Yeah.
With a little
like
bit
a 3D Metroidvania kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. Is that would be a really good way to do it.
A little side note, apparently the more official term for Metroidvania is explorative action, which I'd never heard of before.
That's dumb.
Yeah, I don't like it at all, but I hear that's what people are using now. And
I have never heard someone say that before.
I thought there's one of other Ryan's YouTubers that he watches made a joke once of referring to Metroidvanias. It was something like explorative action. It was like something like explorative action, and then like other people started actually using it, and he was like, no, it was supposed to sound stupid. Don't actually do that because it sounds dumb. Just call it a Metroidvania. Everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't catch on because it sucks.
I don't think it will, because Metroidvania is such a good term, right? Like
it's
such a classic term.
The only time that someone doesn't know what you're talking about is if they don't really know how those two games work. But then
I don't know. Like I learned the term Metroidvania before I knew that Castlevania and Metroid were Metroidvanias.
See, I was fortunate enough. The first time I heard that term is when someone was explaining how Castlevania was then turned into that type of game and how it created that genre. That's the first time I heard of it. So thank God I got the tutorial before everything else. But I could see someone who just doesn't know those two things and like, what is this? What are you talking about? But
I mean, the same thing. Like, I feel like the same reaction would happen with explorative action. Like, wait, what do you mean?
That's every Ubisoft game. It's got exploration. It's got action.
All right.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I do think Brett's idea of the kind of Metroidvania-inspired take on open world would be really cool. Wyatt, please stop.
This is a play.
Please stop. I will mute you.
Oh, no, don't actually use it, though. That was a joke.
Yeah, because I almost feel like you can do this sort of Tsushima-esque thing of maybe you like have abilities that unlock traversal options. Certainly seems like that would be a good option for this. Or more maybe that Dishonored route of it's not open world, but has semi-open levels that you can kind of go around and explore
kind
different areas.
Open-ended sandbox areas, something like that.
Yeah, it looks very different from most of the other things I've seen, which is exciting because it's a horror game that looks like it gives you a lot more power than other horror games. It's kind of going more for that creepy atmosphere.
Have we ever talked about how great the title is too? It's such a great...
Ghostwire Tokyo is great.
That's like, that's a great title. I like that.
I also, this is complete flip side. Whoever the main villain guy, whoever, I don't know if they said his name, I don't know. His voice and delivery incredible. I
Yeah.
really like that. That was like standout. Like this guy actually sounds pretty sick. I like how like aloof he sounds. I love villains that are like that actually managed to pull it off. And he was like, oh, a whole game of that. That is, it was a palate cleanser from the awful just nails on a chalkboard from earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and the spell effects look really cool too.
Yeah.
Or spells or whatever it is they're calling it. The effects for it look really, really cool. That was the other kind of standout part. And the main character has a fanny pack
Yes.
that he wears
love
on
to see it.
his chest.
Love to see it. It's a fanny
Truly is
bandolier.
2021.
All right. Moving on, we've got Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. We've seen it
Still
again.
looks good. Still looks good.
This has me
Didn't
a lot more
learn-
excited about the story because they went into it and like I was like,
Yeah.
this seems like a good superhero story.
Mhm.
It's a little bit
I
campy,
honestly-
but that's kind of what you want.
I honestly can't wait. Like this is
Same.
like ticking every single box for me. It's like
Yep.
narrative adventure where you've got 3 other people in your squad and you can combine attacks together. There's like branching storylines and all this other. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Like kind of like like a space setting, ticking every single box ever. It's great.
Dude, and
Yep.
it looks like if you looked between the things that they were like flashing by with like 2-second clips, it looks like because there were multiple of them, and it looked like from the certain third person view that there was like space combat.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would love
yeah.
that
The
so
ship.
much.
I like that's like talk about like little check boxes. That was like the entire page. Like I was already in. Now I'm
Bingo!
like super in. This is you won my money basically.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of space combat, even if it's just like a weird mini game. I love the idea of
yeah.
it being there.
My least favorite thing of seeing this so far is now I'm imagining what Avengers could have been if it was more like this instead of what we got.
Dude, I mean, this is at least Eidos fully. Like Eidos Montreal, I
Yeah.
don't think has put out a bad game. They've done a lot of great stuff. It's a lot of very different stuff, as they've done mostly Ghost or Deus Ex. So
And they did Tomb Raider, which
Yeah.
was
the Love's Crystal Dynamics.
Oh no, they did the third one, right? It wasn't Crystal Dynamics that did
Eidos has definitely
Adam.
helped with all the Tomb Raiders. I don't know if they fully did.
I think no, they had full. I think they did full development for Shadow of Tomb Raider because they were working on because Crystal Dynamics was working on Avengers.
Really,
which is
I
why
did
they
not
took
know
over.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it was developed.
they really needed that help.
Yeah.
Crystal Dynamics is still listed as developer on that, but it seems like the primary developer was Eidos, which that game's not great. From what I
Shadow,
heard.
you mean?
Yeah, I haven't heard Shadow
It's-
is great.
It's the weakest one. I wouldn't say it's like
That's
a
what
bad
I've
game.
heard, but like the
But
weakest
it's
in
the
a
weakest
trilogy
one.
being the finale is always kind of a
Well, the weird thing, it doesn't
disappointing
have that
thing.
much like action in it. It's like mostly exploration and puzzles. There's like not that much action. It's weird.
All right. Any
Anyway.
other notes about Guardians? I think we talked a lot about the gameplay and whatnot at the last bit we saw of it.
Yeah.
No,
So-
it's
They showed
looking
us a
really
lot.
rad. It's looking really rad. I don't know what else to say. It's looking great.
Yeah, and I will say the designs for everyone but Peter Quill have grown on me. I'm still not a huge fan of Star-Lord in this. I think he looks a little bit too...
It's the hair. It's the hair. That
He
I
looks
think.
really hipster millennial. Because he's got like the long face and then he also has the tall poof hair going back.
Mhm.
But
it just
he
makes
is
him look
one.
very long.
He is a hipster. You just described his character.
I
He's just a
know, but it
hipster
doesn't-
millennial in space.
Star-Lord,
You just refuse to acknowledge it now that it's presented in such a realistic.
but I
fashion.
think with Star-Lord, you want him to also be a little bit more debonair, right? Because he's also kind of the
Oh,
Han
yeah.
Solo. So you want a little bit more of that face that's got like...
Well, his charm is that he's like he wants to be Han Solo. He's like tries really hard to be Han Solo, but he can't like quite pull it off.
I know, but this time he kind of just looks like a hipster I would see in my local coffee shop. I don't know if that's the look that Star-Lord
He's up there with
rocking.
the fedora playing some song that
Like
he wrote
this
in,
looks like this
5
man
minutes.
could pull out a black fedora, put it on in Milady You, and it would be totally fine.
Oh my god.
This is the kind of guy that has a vinyl collection and is way too proud of it.
And cannot wait to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
All right,
Star-Lord.
moving on from Star-Lord and his vinyl. You know what? He kind of does though. He has the mixtape.
Exactly.
But,
You know what?
is that
Maybe
as
it'll
classy
grow on
as
me.
is that as classy as vinyl? Or cassette tape is as classy as vinyl though.
I think a decent part of it is that his face looks close enough to like Chris Pratt
I still like his face.
that it kind of like
I still like his face.
he kind of is the only character for me that's hitting that Marvel's Avengers uncanny valley of kind of looking like the actors. But Rocket's a raccoon, right?
Raccoon.
I know.
I don't care. He's an animal. I think for that it's a lot easier, but
I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying like it's. I don't know.
For my mind, it's the animal disassociation is a lot easier than seeing the face and going, okay, this is Star-Lord. Somehow Chris Pratt has very much changed what I think of when I think of Star-Lord. All right, moving on from that, we got some more showcases of Vampire Masquerade Blood Hunt.
I have not heard anyone like talk or think about this game whatsoever.
I think this is the best it's looked. To be honest, it's not saying that much.
Yeah.
Because the Vampire the Masquerade Battle Royale is still really low on my priority list of things.
Yeah.
But this almost made me want to play it. It felt kind of like Hyperscape to me, where maybe it's not going to succeed, but I'm kind of glad it exists for some reason. I don't know why, but at least we're getting different battle royales.
It's that thing where I look at the gameplay and I'm like, wow, this looks kind of cool, and then I hear it's a battle royale. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm out.
Yeah. It's so strange that we are after the period that like what was that one battle royale that released and got no players and immediately just closed down, and then they made the second one.
Yeah, Radical Heights was...
It's not the one I was thinking of. There might be more than one.
Realm Royale. I don't know if Realm Royale is still
going. The Culling?
The Culling, yes.
Oh,
the Culling 2, technically.
The Culling 2, yeah. That's like this. The fact that this has happened multiple times is like there is such like a weird amount of oversaturation combined with people just like not wanting to try other ones because they're already in the one that they really like to play.
Like the MMO rush when Warcraft came out and the MOBA rush when League came out.
And the hero shooter rush as well.
It's so strange. Like from a marketing standpoint,
the battle royale rush feels like it's gone on for longer, right? Like I think we're.
Well, I think that's
to the hero shooter
Fortnite refuses to like not be one of the most played games ever.
Yeah,
it is insane how they've been able to like keep that game going. And
it's also like that game is super
Fortnite...
aimed for younger kids, like not young children, but the preteen and like early teenager demographic. And a lot of these, like Blood Hunt, is not a game that your parents are going to be okay with you playing if you're a teenager.
No, probably not.
Whereas Fortnite is fine, right?
I feel like as long as Fortnite and Warzone keep going, we're going to keep getting like battle royales, just because it's like as long as those two, because I felt like. And maybe I'm getting the timeline wrong, but like I feel like the hero shooter craze kind of stopped when Overwatch started dying down a little bit.
Yep.
In popularity, and then that's when we had PUBG, and then Fortnite and Warzone. So it's
really
when like the big leaders. It's really like when the big leaders kind of start to lose interest is when we get that new trend. And with Fortnite and Warzone, we haven't gotten there yet. Despite Activision's best efforts to just completely mess up Warzone, people still play it for some reason. So
yeah. All right, now moving away from the battle royale part of this, I do think like this game honestly to me strikes as I think this would have been a lot more popular if it came out after Masquerade 2 comes out.
Yeah.
Because then there'd be some like interest in the franchise and whatnot, and you can get some of the single player people in, but instead it was probably
supposed to be, but Masquerade 2 keeps
having development issues and like we may not even see that game ever. So
wasn't it put on like indefinite hold or
no? The developer changed
like that. Right.
Yeah,
it
went under the Metroid Prime 4 treatment. So, I mean, hopefully it comes out eventually and is good because Vampire the Masquerade is such a unique game, and that environment is like scary vampires are such a great area for RPGs to explore because we don't get them a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's like vampire, almost like. I'm not super familiar with the franchise, but it also has like a gangster theme to it as well. Like you've got your different races, which are almost like different like mob families. And
well, no,
stuff
it's very. I mean, Twilight's a bad comparison because it's very different than Twilight.
God.
But I think if
Oh, no.
Twilight, let me
No.
get through this, Wyatt. So Twilight has different vampire families, and that's the same thing that.
How do you know this?
Because legitimate thing, my father was really into the Twilight movies when they first came out.
Oh, no.
You go to see them all with him?
I had to go see all of them in theaters with him.
That's what I did with my mom.
As they were coming out.
Same thing, but with my mom.
So I'm
Yep.
very familiar. And then he bought like all the books and everything.
Oh,
was great. Really interesting experience. And those movies are fun if you're making fun of them.
Yeah, they're really.
And like the
really
first
good.
one is kind of fun, but I'm getting off topic here.
That's true.
The part that I think a lot of people who aren't like the romance fans who watch those movies liked is the whole political drama of these vampire families, and that is what Vampire the Masquerade is it's political drama of this like vampire underground trying to stay hidden from the real people. And it's a super interesting thing. Like, I highly recommend trying out Vampire the Masquerade with one of the revitalization mod, so you can play that and get a good experience of what that game is about, because it's super different from anything. Very, very cool RPG that still holds up pretty well as long as you've got that bug fixing mod installed. All right, moving past Blood Hunt. We saw Deathloop again.
Let's move on.
Moving
God,
past
why?
Deathloop again. I mean, seriously,
For the
stop.
for the record, I think most of us are pretty excited for it.
Just stop showing it to us.
We
Stop
get
showing
it. It literally comes out in 2 days. We get it. We want to buy your game. I do not want to know any more information.
I mean, the big thing about it is it's made me worried about the amount of content in the game, because I feel like they've shown all of it, legitimately.
They just done a straight up Let's Play like worth of content at this point. They've shown it all. It feels like it's really weird.
It feels like they have nothing else left to hide. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We saw the Radiohead Kid A Amnesiac thing. Brett, I think you're the one who knows the most about this.
I'm the only one interested.
I'm interested.
This was...
I just don't know what it is.
No, that's my thing. I just what am I looking at?
Well, because this was my like, because there were other like things that I saw during the show that I was like, oh, this is cool, but I don't have any like stakes in the franchise. I never played another one of these before. This was like my like, oh, this looks
the Radiohead
awesome.
franchise.
Yes, I do. I have stakes in the Radiohead. After being told for many years, like, oh, they're so pretentious and stupid, don't listen to them, and finally doing it, I've so into them ever since. And this, like, it's just such an interesting thing because we've had
What is it?
I think it's playing off of the kind of trend recently of some more artists on like the more like synthy techno side of music doing like digital concert streams that you can like show up in. I think this is something like that, but combined with like a museum exhibit, like a digital museum exhibit for the Kid A and Amnesiac.
Apparently, it has
albums.
a bunch of B-sides of the albums too,
Yes.
which is very interesting.
Yes, some of which have been released already, and these are like they're called like B-sides, but most of them I'm pretty sure haven't been in like a good like mastered, well recorded, nice like state before. Like they've been like performed sometimes, but something that like diehard fans of any band like really enjoy is just like finally getting like good proper, not like random obscure YouTube lyric video made in 2007 content of a song that isn't on an album or something.
I will be honest. Oh no, go ahead. Keep going.
I was just gonna
were
rant
still
on like
going.
an idiot.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, cool. I was gonna say, when they started, they had like the red hallway. I was like, "Is this another Control?"
It did,
game?
my
It
mind
did look
immediately
like
went to
That is
Control.
what it looked like to me. I
Yeah.
was like, "Damn," because it's got like that same shade of red, that same like kind of like
Brutalist
foreboding,
monument thing.
Brutalist, yeah.
Mhm.
It's got the same vibes going. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so excitement for Kid A Amnesia. Moving on, because we got to
Yes.
keep the pace up. We're running a little bit later with this. We got Tachia. It's a game inspired by New Caledonia. This was This to me was my game of the show because it just looked like a good time. It's the kind of game that comes out and I'm just like, I just want to spend a couple hours relaxing with this, where it's you had this ability to like jump between different animals. It looked like there was some kind of fishing, a story about the environment and some strange people coming in and wrecking it up was the vibe I was getting.
It was one of those things that I have an issue with sometimes, where it's like you can do all of these things, but like, what's the thrust? What's the
point that it's fun? Why?
I think it's just a sandbox for you to do those things in.
I mean, well, there's clearly like a story here and some form of plot to do, but like,
but it's the same question I had when like No Man's Sky was first doing its marketing, where it's like there's all these things and like that's cool, but like what's like the main like thing that pushes you from point A to point B? Like I don't know what it is yet.
I don't think it needs it, to be honest. This is one of those games that strikes me as the kind of game that.
But then if it doesn't need it, it hasn't. I don't know. I just wasn't like. I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe, but I was like, all of this is cool, but what is it in service to ultimately?
Well, I mean, I think that's the whole New Caledonia tagline.
And if it's to have fun, that's fine.
Well, that's what it is, right? Like that's immediately what this trailer is trying to get across. I think is this feels like a not Balan Wonderworld, a Bug Snacks type game, where the point of the game is just to have some fun, right? Like there's not much to unlock or something in a game like Bug Snacks, but you're just enjoying the weird gameplay and creatures and whatnot, and having fun exploring the area. And that is very much the vibe.
But it has a glider. That means it's a Breath of the Wild clone, and it has green grass.
All right,
it's a Breath of the Wild clone.
Wyatt, we're getting off of Breath of the Wild. Okay. To be honest, like I think the most comparable game that I immediately thought of when I saw this was Everything, of that weird game where you could hop into different objects and whatnot, and there was no point. You just hopped into different objects and wandered around. It was great. And it's a great game. So I think Tachia, if it really digs into that sandboxy, just go have some fun with your bucket of toys attitude, I'm gonna be very excited by it.
I was almost getting like if Stardew Valley was like 3D, it felt very like lackadaisical and kind
of. We have a bunch of those already. Way. We got this Rune Factory. There's My Time at Portia.
Yeah,
and this definitely looked like it had less of the farming and more of the go talk to people and have friends and whatnot and learn about the environment and the people that live there.
Oh, that's great because I don't have any friends. So that'll be perfect.
I mean, all right.
Make some now.
Moving on. Past the Chio, we saw that we're getting Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy on PS5 and PC.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be in 2022. So
I don't have much to. I feel like we've talked about these games a lot, so I don't have much to say on the games themselves. But I'm glad that people that have never experienced the franchise before will get.
These are some good gets for PC. Uncharted 4, I've heard is wonderful. I'm still waiting to play it until I get through the rest. But
Uncharted 4,
Lost Legacy, I remember playing a decent bit on my Vita, and that's a good game.
It is. I was shocked.
I'm glad it's coming to home consoles now. We get to play it on PS5, so very exciting. All right, moving on to our first big announcement. Well, we've had a couple big announcements, but our first surprise big announcement was Marvel's Wolverine.
Yes.
Funky.
By Insomniac as well. So Insomniac just put out Ratchet and Clank. They just put out Miles Morales. They're making Spider-Man 2, and they bring out this Wolverine teaser trailer.
Look, the name of their studio is fitting because there's no way that these guys actually get any time to sleep. No way.
I mean, Insomniac is one of the largest studios that Sony has under their belt right now, and I think they have like 3 or 4 teams going all the time. So it makes sense that they're able to put this much stuff out, but like, man, they have some crazy quality control.
Yeah,
that's the thing that often feels like it's lacking in like Ubisoft games is that quality control.
That's the crazy thing. They can put out 3 games in like 4 years, and the quality is always like ridiculously high.
An important note with Wolverine, we did not get a date on this, so this is probably 2023, 2024, maybe even 2025.
I do like how they tricked us a little bit because they're like Insomniac, Marvel, and then immediately I was like, oh, it's going to be another.
Oh.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw the guy sitting at the bar in flannel, I was like, this is Wolverine.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
As soon as you see the knuckles, especially, instantly Wolverine.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
big hairy muscle guy in flannel. It's probably
there's honestly not a lot we can say about this because we know next to nothing. I'm gonna assume they're probably doing an action game. They've said it's gonna be more mature than the other games they've made, which is I think
Which makes
obvious
sense.
from being Wolverine. You can't really like de-bloodify Wolverine because his entire gimmick is ripping people apart with claws. So
yeah,
this game's probably gonna be a lot more brutal than
given
their other games.
Given Insomniac's track record, it's probably going to be really good. Like when's the last time? Like I'm trying to think of a bad Insomniac game in the last.
There's definitely been
20...
one.
Oh, Fuse! Who could forget about Fuse? everyone's favorite Insomniac game, right?
I forgot about it.
Right.
Who could forget about Fuse?
Forgot about it.
I personally liked Sunset Overdrive. Not everyone did, but I liked it.
I mean, Sunset Overdrive, I think, would be their last one where they were considered not like a major studio, right? Where like Sunset Overdrive was a decent game, but it wasn't a breakout hit or anything. Whereas all their other games have been
in the sense that it was a Microsoft exclusive at a time where
crazy.
They really had nothing.
Very strange.
But no, yeah. I mean, given their track record, like even when they weren't like a larger studio, they still made Infamous 1 and 2, which are pretty good. And so
all the Ratchet games.
It's all the Ratchet and Clank games. I mean,
you know what? 2016, maybe you could count that as one of their not striking out or not batting.
It was still fun to play though. It's just the story was really lame. And
the movie thing, like there were some weird decisions there.
Yeah.
Weird
the quality
decisions.
control from
that didn't feel like that was their decision though. You know what I mean? Like that felt like that was probably something that they had to work around rather than a decision that they made.
Maybe not.
But
yeah, either way, Wolverine, excited for it. We'll talk more about this when we see some gameplay or even get like an article that talks more about it because we can't even really speculate. But we don't know if this is going to be open world. We don't know what it's going to be like. It could be like Ratchet and Clank where it's level based, but you can go back to different levels and whatnot. So we'll see what this is like. It looks like it's going to be a good time from the vibe I was getting in that dingy bar. Felt very Wolverine.
It's an Insomniac superhero game, so it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah. I'm betting the combat's probably going to take that Tsushima direction of being not overtly super violent, but if you look at what's happening on the screen, it looks pretty bloody and violent. Well, like Tsushima doesn't feel that violent, but when you actually look at it, you're like, oh wait, there's like blood everywhere.
They could go the super overindulgent like God of War PS4 route.
Yeah, Wolverine's one of those few superheroes. I don't think Disney and Marvel would allow that, but
if only.
It's one of the only superheroes where you really can go out of your way to make something crazy like that. All right, moving on. Gran Turismo 7. Due in March 2022.
Cars!
Hey, I mean, so Forza Motorsport 7 just got announced as permanently going away because of car licensing issues and whatnot, which sucks, but is understandable. I've been playing that game because it went on huge sale before it vanishes, so people can still get it. And that game is really good, and I've heard GT is probably going to be better. So I'm excited to get these crazy track racing games, and I'm excited because playing Wreckfest on my PS5, which is one of the free games that came with the PS5 when it launched, the controller is so much fun. Where like if you hit a bump and your brakes hitch, you can feel it in the controller, and there's like a hitch in the brakes. It's crazy, super cool. The amount of damage your car takes actually affects how it handles and whatnot, and how the controller feels, which is really cool. And I'm hoping Gran Turismo goes for that. Be a very fun game for them car fans. All right, moving past Gran Turismo because I know neither of you two have anything to say.
You can wake up now, Wyatt. Come on.
Wyatt, you cover video games. You gotta at least pretend you're excited about new releases.
I'm sorry. What were we talking about?
Nothing. We'll just what's next?
Okay. We're talking about Ace Combat, Wyatt. Don't worry.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Oh God.
All right.
Just go sleep.
Marvel Spider-Man 2 is the next one that we saw. This is 2023, so it's still a ways off, but we did see in-engine footage, which is nice to see. And it looks like we're going to be playing both Parker and Morales here. Huge fan of that. Maybe some tag team action, some co-op.
co-op.
Lot of potential here, especially after Avengers has fallen very flat. We're in the space of if you don't have a Switch in Ultimate Alliance 3, you're out of luck for good co-op Marvel games. So
Yep.
I would love to see a co-op Spider-Man. Although I do wonder how that would play because that game looks very good, and I feel like you can't have it split screen and also
even
look
if
that
they
good.
did like the Arkham Knight like hot swap between characters, that would be pretty.
Well, that's what I
sweet,
would
to be
want for
honest.
single player. Is hot swapping characters would be great.
Yeah.
But
The
could be
villain
very
roster
fun.
seems pretty exciting. We've got
Obviously
Kraven
online
the
co-op could be
Hunter.
pretty seamless.
Yeah, we've got Kraven the Hunter. We've got Venom. Was there someone else? I'm trying to remember now.
I only remembered Venom, so
Yeah,
I don't
but I do
know.
remember.
Yeah, I
I
remember
think
Venom.
someone was talking, and I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be Kraven, who's always a fun time.
Yeah, it is more Marvel Spider-Man. It's gonna be good. I have very little doubt
most
about
likely.
that. From what we've heard, it is the biggest game that Insomniac is working on by like a significant margin.
Which makes sense.
But yeah, that's what I already had tons of fun with Spider-Man 1, so I'm sure this is going to be a lot of fun too when it comes out. I'm excited to see where the story goes.
I say this every time. Spider-Man on PS4 is just such an easy game to play. Like everything feels right.
It's just intuitive. It's very well
wonderful.
made. The control scheme's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing to keep in mind, if this is coming out in 2023, then Wolverine is like
2024 or 5,
Yeah.
most likely.
yeah.
Unless they're going to pull the crazy thing out and reveal that Wolverine's been in development for like the past 5 years and comes out immediately after the next show, which
I'm going to
highly
assume
doubtful.
that there's like a section of Insomniac that works just on Marvel stuff.
No, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
they're probably, one at a time.
All right. Any other thoughts on Spider-Man 2? We didn't really see.
No, because I want to
too
talk
much.
about God of War.
Okay, great. So we're talking about God of War now. God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
We saw some more in-depth look at this. By in-depth, I mean it wasn't that long, but we did get to see a new trailer, new story bits. The mirror in all his glory is still there. It looks like God of War. Really, that's all I wanted. I can't be negative about this because God of War is like such a good game to play. I think the only complaint I've had about it is there's not a ton of enemy variety.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, that's such a minor issue.
One small thing, I hope that they change the way health works. Because I wasn't a huge fan of how health pickups work. But in like the grand scheme of things.
That's yeah. Again, it's like even if they don't, that's not a huge issue.
It would work well as more as like how Doom Eternal does it, where you gain health by like killing enemies.
Yeah, I would love to see glory kills be the thing to do in God of War.
I mean, they have glory kills. They just
they have them. They just don't do anything. So I would love to see glory kills be those loot pinatas of health.
I'm interested to see where you can travel to villages that are like populated by other people. And
Absolutely.
not just like quest specific people, because that was one thing I kind of wanted was just
because God of War always
around.
felt very barren, even though they kind of allude to the fact that there's a greater world going on and that like
and you got to travel
very...
to most of the 9 realms and you barely see anyone outside of the 2 dwarves.
Yeah, because the big thing that comes to mind is when you're visiting, I forget the name, but the elf area.
They
keep talking. Elfheim? Yeah, they keep talking about how populated and how crazy that area is with people, and then you just don't see anyone.
You seem way in the distance.
Yeah.
So it looked like we were traveling to a village that was like populated by people. That seemed kind of interesting. I'm interested to see what. Good. I'm interested to see what Atreus is like when he's older, and how that kind of changes their relationship.
Because it does look like there's been like 2 to 4 year time skip, maybe. Atreus
which is
doesn't
interesting
look that
considering.
Much older. But.
Which is interesting, and also people his age tend to look vastly different from year to year at that age. But like,
and the fact that like they're all weird god people, so who knows how it works?
Who knows? It is interesting considering how they left off the game, where it's like, oh, so
we don't want to spoil the end of God of War.
I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil. I'm just saying, considering how they ended, I'm interested to see where that time gap starts, or that
definitely.
time jump starts. It looked like you can use the chains as like a grappling hook, which is always nice to see.
What I gotta wonder, are we gonna get a new weapon? I feel like we're probably gonna get a new weapon, right? That's a sequel thing to do. So I just gotta wonder.
I mean, it looks like most of them are accounted for. You have the axe, you have the blades, you have the shield. So
well, that's what I'm feeling, because
really
like with the blades, they did not show those at all, right?
Yeah.
So I figure if we get a different weapon, it's going to be a surprise in the game. They're not going to show it in any advertisements.
100%. And the other question is, are they going to start us off with all those things?
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point, because God of War is a hard franchise to do a hard restart in, especially. I mean, you could do the thing of maybe Kratos has kind of been sitting on his laurels for a little while and forgot some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have some special abilities and whatnot. Yeah, I feel like they're gonna have all the equipment with you at the start.
The only other interesting thing to note that I didn't know until they did like a deeper dive into it after the fact is that Cody Barlog isn't the creative director anymore. And I said his name right this time.
I don't think you did, Wyatt.
It's Barlog.
You said Barlog, right? You didn't say Corey.
I said Corey.
No, you said Cody.
No, I didn't.
Wyatt, you said Cody. You 100% said Cody.
I don't remember which one he said.
Because as soon as you said it, I was like, wait a minute, why are we talking about Cody Rhodes? Who's a wrestler?
No.
Wyatt, I'm gonna while I'm uploading this, I'm gonna send you a clip of the timestamp where you just said Cody Barlog.
I hate
you better be right then, Ryan.
I am correct.
I hate you so much.
Why do you hate me? You did it, Wyatt.
Don't hate the player, hate the game, Wyatt.
I can hate whoever I want, I'm an adult.
Don't hate the Balrog, hate the Barlog.
Well, I think I was so focused on saying Barlog and not Balrog that I probably just wasn't even thinking. But no, I did want to point out, I feel like he was it felt like very much like when you looked at behind the scenes of God of War on PS4 and stuff, it all kind of came back to Corey in some way.
Yeah.
It felt like, and so and there is a different director now. And what they say, and what they said is like at Santa Monica, they have, even if it's within the same franchise, they have different directors so they can bring different like.
Because I think God of War has had different directors before and hasn't really suffered for it.
Right, but it just feels like whenever you think about God of War and like the production of God of War, like it feels like, it feels like Corey was such a huge part of that.
Well, I don't think he's not involved at all. I think he's just not the director.
Well, I know he is, but he's not the, and that can change a project quite a bit depending on who it is. Not to say that this guy isn't up to the task or anything, we don't know yet, but I just thought that was worth pointing out because it feels like him and the game are so like interlocked.
Yeah, because Barlog wasn't even that involved with God of War 3, which was still pretty well received. Yeah. So yeah, he's definitely up there, but yeah, most of the other directors have been David Jaffe and Stig Asmussen. I don't want to get his name wrong, but I definitely pronounced that wrong. But yeah,
nice try.
God of War has had different directors for like every single release.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Barlog was actually only the director, it looks like, on the second game.
Right.
So, I mean, all of them are good.
No.
Definitely recommend playing those games even now.
But no, I'm excited. I think the only real thing that I want to see change is I feel like sometimes the RPG elements weren't like the most engaging thing in the world. Like I didn't hate
it.
Them,
didn't have very imaginative skill trees. I'll put it that way.
No. I think a lot of the moves you unlock and stuff is cool, but like the gear grind was kind of like pretty standard.
Not super fun.
Yeah. If they cut it out entirely to focus on something else, like and replaced it with something more interesting that kind of fits God of War more, I'm totally fine with that. If they
I honestly feel like God of War is the game that could take Valhalla's loot system and use that better than Valhalla did. Because Valhalla feels like a kind of game that could use randomized loot and whatnot, as much as they decided they want to take it out. Whereas God of War feels like it could use those singular, unique pieces you find throughout the world more.
Yeah.
So either way,
hopefully more interesting side quests this time around.
Yeah, I'd love to see more side content that is up to modern standards and not just go hunt down the things.
They weren't terrible because they always tried to spin it as like, Kratos is trying to teach Atreus something through the side quests.
Yeah.
which is fine. Like they tried to justify it as best they could, but like maybe
Still not
something
that
a bit
interesting.
something more interesting where you're not just talking to ghosts the whole time would be kind of cool.
It's like the Spider-Man missions where, like, in Insomniac Spider-Man, there's tons of those missions that you can do, but there's just no point to doing them because all they do is just, it's just not a lot of fun, you know?
I hope they keep the same kind of like pseudo open world design because I think the way they set it up is actually super interesting and well done.
Felt very appropriate for God of War.
Yeah. This is probably my game of show because they actually showed gameplay, which was cool.
Hey, Tachia showed gameplay, Wyatt.
well, if what I'm saying is it's not game of show just because it's God of War. If it was like a cutscene and they didn't show gameplay, it wouldn't have been. But I'm glad that they did. So
looks very good.
Radiohead doesn't even have gameplay.
Radiohead's not even a game. Okay, we've covered the Sony showcase. Now, it's time to get down to business. We normally play a game on the show, but this time there are no games because there's a grudge match going on. There's a feud happening in Double M Radio, and it's between these two right here. Wyatt and Brett have beef. Brett, take the floor.
Indeed. Well, about a week ago, Wyatt, you appear to have painted me in a very unsavory, ungamerly light, by taking the aim assist. It's not even an argument. It's just stupid at this point. I don't even care anymore. By taking it to a new level and painting the picture, with Alex Labella's help. I'm considering him an accomplice in this. That I think that Halo games have never had aim assist on controllers, and that is a preposterous lie. I absolutely agree with what Alex said.
No, I said Brett had said that aim assist did not exist on controllers, and I was referring to the PC version. I never said the word console.
That's where I got worked up, but then he explained himself in a brief, respectable fashion. You said nothing of the sort.
Well, because I went back and I listened to the tapes to see if I had said it, because I could have, right? Like I could have said it wrong. But
I'm gonna be honest with you. I know this is in our 001 Discord, but I do not remember this conversation that you two had, and I think I completely missed it.
You can go read it.
No. I am sure it's there. I just was not aware that this happened.
I have wallowed in pure, unadulterated, seething rage for the last 7 days of my life, waiting to get my hands on you, Wyatt. And by that I mean I just clear that up. I did not think that about Halo. I've been playing bad games since as long as I've played games. And yes, they have aim assist on the console versions and probably on PC with the controller.
To clear up where this came from, we were playing MCC long time ago. I think over 6 months ago at this point, and we were playing, and Brett started using a controller and was saying there was no aim assist because he was doing better than Wyatt and I in this match. And he was on controller, and Wyatt and I were playing on PC, and he was going with keyboard and mouse, and he was going, it doesn't feel like there's aim assist. And then I put it in a controller and tried playing, and I was like, Brett, there's aim assist.
Well.
And then he was adamant that there was no aim assist for like the next 2 hours. As far as I can tell, there's no option to turn it off. And I know Brett has not touched those controller options. Which means
probably not. I don't know.
Can I also be honest with you? I don't even, and I'm not saying this didn't happen, but I also don't remember saying that you thought that there was no like.
You did because you and Alex Labella were like, "Why would he possibly?"
I'm just saying.
This?
I'm thinking back to that episode. And I do not.
Well, Wyatt, we've already established you have some bad memory when it comes to recalling past Double M Radio episodes.
This is true.
You did completely forget that we did a Guilty Pleasures episode.
Listen, it's not just 001. I have a bad memory in general. It's like I have the memory of a half-dead goldfish. Like it's terrible. I don't even remember my own last name most of the time. So,
but Brett, what is the beef now?
The beef now I mean, well, the only beef that I have remaining is that I was kind of relying on you in this because you said that you had some Metal Gear things that you wanted to wait for me to be here to
Oh,
Oh,
talk about.
correct. I
And
did
that's
say
that's the
that.
that's the only beef that I remember. I should have taken notes, but I
The
wasn't
Metal
that
Gear
hateful when I
beef
was
will
listening to it.
return. I can
Okay.
promise that, but I want to do it in a more fitting episode where we're talking about like stealth or something. Because then
Okay.
we can talk about Metal Gear 2. Because look, I think your
Ye-
Metal Gear Solid 2 takes are bad, but I need to play the game again to decide if they're actually bad or if my memory is just really bad.
can we Can we
Because I
call
might
it?
be wrong.
Can we call it Beef Gear Solid?
Metal Beef Solid.
I at least have beef with your story opinions of Metal Gear 2.
Okay.
That might have to be
But-
a Games Club episode for
Just so that we
Look,
don't
Metal
spoil
Gear
it,
might be a
yeah.
Games Club episode of just insanity because look, the thing
Let's
with
do
Metal
it.
Gear is you can say like a random thing about Metal Gear that is a spoiler but doesn't sound like it and also isn't a spoiler because you're not going to know what it means until you get
Sounds
there.
like you're trolling
That's the
someone. You're
thing.
just messing with
It
someone.
exactly because that's like I've gone through 1, 2, and 3 just being like, how have I
It's
not
also
had
because the
any of these
games
things
are not
spoiled?
in chronological order, right? Where like
Yeah.
5 is in between 3 and 4 or 3 and 1. So
Yeah.
they're all over the place. You can kind of say things that'll be like, "Oh, Big Boss dies," but Big Boss dies in the NES game.
It's
So
that's the first
that's
thing
not
that
a
happened
spoiler because that's like the build up to
in
the story.
series.
But then you go play
Yeah.
Big Boss in like 2 other games. So
Mhm.
It's kind of like trying to connect the Zelda timeline together. It just gives you a headache.
well, it's easy once you've played all of them, but it doesn't make sense
Yes.
unless you play all of them. Right?
Yes.
You have to play 1 through 4 to be able to formulate the timeline into a way that actually makes some modicum of sense. And then 5 is still just kind of there. It fills in some gaps, but it's not essential because you can make the timeline make sense without it, right? But the other games, they don't make sense without all of them.
Mhm.
Okay. Now that said, because we have beef this episode, and as always, this is a YouTube channel. We are always in the pursuit of content. I'm hereby initiating a grudge match, an official Double
Oh.
on Radio grudge match. Wyatt
Oof.
and Brett. Alex and I are going to devise for you a series of Halo MCC matches against each other to challenge who is the truest winner of this debate,
Oh my god.
completely regardless of whether or not you're actually correct.
Awesome.
And then
Okay.
Alex and I, assuming I can rope into this because I haven't talked to him about it, but I figure he would love this, is getting him to color commentate you two 1v1ing while we spectate
Oof.
in Halo. And it's not going to be standard games. These are going to be wild. They're going to be weird.
Of course.
There will be
Of
more than
course.
one round. And at some point, it'll happen. I'm going to fire up MCC and start devising something.
Zero
Maybe there'll be a
gravity,
maze.
bottomless clip.
Of course.
Maybe there'll be a maze. Maybe one of you won't have a gun. We'll see. Maybe
horrible,
we'll make
horrible
Brett play
parkour map.
with. We'll make both of you play on controller without auto aim if that's an option.
It's Ryan and Alex's action sack playlist.
Exactly.
Just the weirdest garbage.
I
can't
have
wait for this. This sounds
a
like
Google
fun.
Doc out formulating ideas for this
That's awesome. That's awesome.
because I think this would be very fun, and I know we all like to play
Yeah.
Halo. So,
What if
good
you want
little
me on
thing to do.
Ascension, bro? Just try it. Just try it.
I will have you 1v1 on the biggest map in the game and make it best out of 15.
Yeah.
What if you want me on Sandtrap, bro?
Oh god.
All right. With that, this episode is coming to an end. We've run our full time slot for today. As always, Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. And this week, special treat, it came out on Monday right before this. We did a wrestling episode. For those who
Yes.
haven't been following the arc of Brett and I talking about wrestling since he managed to convert me to watching AEW.
You're not caught up on 001 lore.
Yeah, if you're not caught up on 001
Yes.
lore, deep lore, we now have a 001 wrestling division. Brett and I are on it, as well as 2 other lovely hosts, Ryan and Max. And we did a deep dive into AEW All Out. It was over 2 hours long, I think.
Yes.
Very, very informative, super fun.
Very
That'll probably be
analytical.
happening again for the next AEW pay-per-view that is coming out, but
Yes.
you can go check out the All Out one now. Goodbye. We will see you next week, as always, Tuesday morning, 7 a.m.
We didn't do shoutouts.
Well, the shout-out is the Halo game that's happening.
Okay.
That's
all of our shout-outs.
That's your shout-out. You didn't give Brett and Ryan.
You know what? You know what I'm doing? No, I'm stopping the outro right now, okay? Because you two complained. We're now doing shoutouts. You're locked here for another 3 minutes.
Oh my god.
So Wyatt, what's your shoutout?
My shoutout goes to Predator Hunting Grounds, not because it's like the greatest game ever made, but as someone who watched the movie because it was on Amazon Prime last night, just to like prepare myself to play the game. They did such a good job at taking like little moments from the movie and turning them into like actual game mechanics. So it's like the best use of fan service I've ever seen because it actually services the game in some way. It was really cool.
All right, Brett, you got a shout out?
Our friend Eric picked up a little something special for me at a flea market for $4, and
oh my
played this
God.
game.
For audio listeners, what is it, Brett?
Yes, it is Call of Duty World at War for the Xbox 360, backwards compatible with the Xbox One.
Oh my
Wonderful.
God!
I have not touched this game since I had my my 360, and like probably is almost like 10 years ago at this point. And there just will never be another COD like it ever again. That campaign is so good. It's so dark. It's like I think it's listed under the genre of like action horror, and like not the zombies mode, because the zombies mode has its own genre underneath it. It's like a horrifying look at World War II, and it's my favorite one. There will never be another one like it.
I remember playing through the entirety of it on my PS Vita.
Oh, dude, what about the Wii version? Oh man,
I didn't have that one. All right, I got a shout out to this thing. It is, my controller died, so I went to go get a new controller, and they had this fancy aqua blue controller. It's got like reflective coating that color shifts. Now I have a new controller for my PC because I was taking the one from my roommate that had a controller, and just using it when I had the time, but I needed my own, so ordered that, and it's very, very nice looking. With that, now we're actually ending the show. You know what, Brett? We'll find out when you two complete your Halo matches at some point. We'll get to that.
What was that Breaking Benjamin song that would like intro the Halo like MLG tournament? It was like some like.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember it.
We should do that. We should play that.
It's like right on the tip of my tongue.
I know.